Now for me it's an honor and privilege to welcome our demissionair Minister of Education, Culture and Science, Ingrid van Engelshoven. She is here on screen with us.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, and we really appreciate your support, and we really appreciate that you're here, Minister van Engelshoven. You have been very active yourself in putting recognition and rewards in academia on the European agenda. Could you tell us a little bit more about your efforts?
Well, I shouldn't say it's my effort. It's the effort of the Dutch community. It's actually your effort that is well known throughout Europe. And what I did is just giving it a voice in the European Council, for example, because it should getting recognition and rewards realized takes more than just giving it attention. It also should get a place in our policies, not just in the Dutch policies, but also in the European policies, for example, when it comes to a European science policy. So, still, it are your efforts, and I'm trying to give it a voice, giving it a place in Dutch policy, in European policy. And what it shows is that recognition and awards is all about team effort. And this is also team effort. We are doing this together, but I'm very grateful of all the work you did to make sure that I can put it on the table in Europe.
Yeah, really appreciate your work in our team as well. Could you reflect on that, Rianne?
No, absolutely. We have to do this all together, both top-down and bottom-up. That's also what we've seen today, that you need the entire community to make this cultural change really something that becomes visible, and not only visible to the supporters, because we have, I think, quite a lot of supporters now, but there's also a group that is maybe more resistant and also a little bit insecure what it will mean for their career. So I'm very happy to hear that also our minister is so supportive with regard to making this group of supporters larger, not only in the Netherlands, but also outside, because our whole ecosystem of science is international. And your contribution to that is very important for us.
Yeah, and we just spoke 1 minute before the audience saw you, Minister van Engelshoven, and you've already you've been to the University of Amsterdam and also spoke there with young academics, we've learned.
Yes, I did. And what I see is that they are very eager to put a new system of recognition and rewards into their systems. It's still, there's still a lot to try out and to find out. But what I see, and especially in these troubling times, people are really looking for new forms of leadership. They see the great importance of innovation in education, in leadership in education, and this should be also seen within the rewards system. So I think all we've been through last year made it even more urgent to make steps forward in a new system of recognition and rewards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's also one of the takeaways of today, the position of our young academics. Jeroen.
Yeah. So I've been extremely inspired today by the young people, by the early career scientists that we've spoken to. I think that what has been very clear from the beginning and is still very clear now is that young people really want a different system, really strive and hunger for a more inclusive and a broader perspective on their careers. Mm-hmm. Today, I've seen them discuss the implementation of our position paper in their respective universities, in their respective university medical centers. I've seen them be enthusiastic about certain types of narratives and ways of looking at their careers. So I'm really enthusiastic, and I think that this is absolutely the driving force for the success, the eventual success of recognition and rewards.
Yeah, and maybe also zoom in a little bit on what our minister said with regard to this last year. This last year, you've seen our teaching staff and support staff really adapt to the changing needs in education, showing lots of creativity and innovation and flexibility. And that should then also be rewarded, and also in a lasting perspective, and not only in this last year. And it shows also the necessity to have good teachers that are innovative and that can have room to be experimenting in teaching, and also then in the end of the career or in the end of the year be assessed for that. So the COVID is terrible, but on the other hand, it shows that we absolutely need to value what we do in our teaching domain.
And it showed that the hearts and minds of our academics were with their teaching.
Absolutely, and with our students. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We were together in a round table with Tanja Bonderoek, and we spoke about team efforts and how we look at teams.
Yeah.
Could you maybe tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was quite an inspiring session where Tanja, who is the chair of the Twente University Committee, very enthusiastically presented the Vision of Twente. There are 3 universities, Minister, good to know, Twente, Tilburg and Utrecht, I like to call them, who've already launched their vision and in beautiful formats. And indeed in Twente, the whole aspect of teamwork is central, as is inclusiveness. And they've done also some shadow researching, they call it, where they look at what's happening in teams and how does that work, and how do you then in the end assess the contribution that is made in that team effort. And she had very nice examples of how you could do that in order to make it also something to implement for the other universities. So I think it was a good session.
Because that's something you hear often, right? That if you're going for team science, then there is no individual, let's say, we can't award prizes to people anymore because it's not going to be clear who did what. How did you look at that problem between quotation marks in your session?
Well, that was not really the topic. Jeroen.
I mean, if it's team science.
It's a discussion more broader. Also, when we had the discussion whether there should be a higher education prize.
Right,
because we have the Spinoza Research Prize, and then we have a higher education prize. Well, that prize is also for teams.
Yeah.
And I have always said, also with regard to prizes in the research domain, even though you are the PI, you never did that on your own, not even writing the proposal for research grants and also not the achievements within that research line. That's always a team effort. Not always, before I get all the critique again, but in many research domains it is. So to have these joint prizes, I think the collective prizes is something that I would stimulate much more than only the PI that gets the prize.
And our minister, of course, was one of the initiators of this prize. So could you please tell us a little about this new awards you created also for teams in teaching?
Yes, it's the new reward, and we just made the nominees public, and it are all teams. And what I really wanted is, and it's really in addition to your work on recognition and awards, if we want to reward efforts and achievements in education as much as in science and in research, then a prize doesn't say it all, but it helps to put education and innovation in education in the spotlights, and that's exactly what we did. And when we first launched it, there was there was critique, but there's always, when you introduce something new, there's always critique. But what I see is that these teams that were nominated were so enthusiastic, and everyone is asking them, so what do you do in education? And so it shines the light on education. That's exactly what I wanted. So I hope it will help to stimulate innovation in education and to have it rewarded.
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing that. Jeroen, you've also visited some of the workshops. What
struck me?
Yeah, what are your takeaways?
So I've gone again to the young scientists just to see how they were discussing their problems and their issues. How they, and I think Rianne and I were discussing in the break that we really will take this with us to the steering committee. The fact that we need to find an early entrance for PhD students to work with us to redress their evaluation. I think they have some very good ideas, some very good plans to how to do this, and some of those plans were shown. And another workshop that I visited was the university medical centers that also have a very interesting tripartite challenge where they have to combine education, research, and clinical care. And they were discussing how their physicians can also be included in the new plans of recognition and rewards. So those two things I've taken with me after the workshops.
Yeah, and I've been to also the workshop on open science, and Jeroen Zondervan and Sander Bos there worked with a Miro board, so the participants there were able to use memos and to say what they thought should be recognized and rewarded, both in research and education, and how to reward transparency and integrity and quality. So I'm really looking forward to see the results of this workshop as well, and we can really see them. So I'm really looking forward to that. Anne-Roos, maybe let's see if in the chat there are interesting questions for us.
There's been, I think, more of a kind of suggestions. For example, as to how we regard team science, how can we really incorporate team science into our recognition and reward systems? For example, Frank van Vree suggests we should introduce the kind of credits list they do with films, with who did what and what role, but maybe reflect a little bit on how can we incorporate team science in our rewarding systems.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that there are different definitions of team science. So at the funders, for example, we sometimes talk about team science in the sense that there are different disciplines that come together and try to formulate research questions over the disciplinary boundaries. But we can also talk about team science in terms of people who are involved in a certain research project. And then it's important also to involve those people who are normally not on stage. So let's say research technicians and people who are very important for research but don't usually get the credit. So
Yeah, and I think we should not limit team science to science only, because it's also team spirit and teamwork. And I think that's important. And what we did in Maastricht, we did include in the tenure track criteria a part where you need to show what you contributed to the objectives of the collective. And that can be the department, the institute, the faculty, or even university. And that will also be assessed in your career steps. And because that also stimulates academic citizenship that we all need in our universities. We always need people to work with us in committees, in working groups, in participatory bodies. But often that kind of work is not recognized. And to ask that, so what did you do to contribute to those goals that a university also has, will help also to feel appreciated for that. And I think that are just examples on how you can actually take that into account.
Do you have another question?
Well, maybe there's a lot of suggestions indeed that team science is more than science.
Yeah.
We can also apply it to education or other academic endeavors. So I think it's also another suggestion. We've been talking a lot about young academics, but we have PhDs of all ages. So maybe the language that we use to talk about researchers or academics or scholars matters a lot. So maybe
point.
to reflect on that, how we use the words we use in science.
yeah.
True. Yeah, that's
So
another
in the
point.
first debate as well, because you, some of the early career academics at early career researchers.
Yeah.
So also in the international debate, early career researchers is a common it's a common phrase, and also in European perspective, the European research agenda and its researcher is very
dominant.
Very dominant, and it's pretty difficult also to get other countries to use more academics or scholars. We have wetenschapper in Dutch, and
that's broader already.
That's broader.
Yeah.
We're inventing new language, and we're realizing that language matters.
Yeah.
Right. So.
We have to be careful what we. Absolutely. But what I liked also very much today is that we discussed, or that we had some experiences that's maybe also nice for our minister from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where we discussed how they have developed a program regarding talent development and leadership skills with regard to the diplomats in particular. So what we also try to do is to get some external perspectives, because we always think in academia that we know everything, which is of course also not true, in particular not on this topic. So it's good to open up a little bit the windows and to learn from other sectors where this whole cultural change has already taken place. And I hope we will do that more also in the coming months. That's maybe something you relate to, Minister?
Yes, and I think when I look at the future of academic communities and of our universities, in my strategic agenda, it's all about cooperation instead of course, competition is in science a good thing, but there should be more than competition alone. It should also be about working together, collaboration between universities, but also within universities. And what I hear, and you see it indeed in foreign affairs, but it should also be in our higher education, that new leadership wants to be inclusive and wants to is all about working together in teams, in collaboration, and within teams, but also between scientific disciplines. We should team up more and have more collaboration. So, and what makes me very happy is that the discussion about these new forms of leadership is not the competition between individuals, between universities, should be in the center of our attention, but it should be about teams, it should be about collaboration, and it should be about inclusiveness. And I think then we will see quite a bright future for our academic community. So it makes me very happy that I see that you have these inspiring discussions on a day like this.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
True.
Is there any reflection on what we've just discussed here?
Well, there's maybe the question for Jeroen, for how do the discussions about team science or spirit relate to prestige of individual grants, and how can we adjust funding schemes to it?
Yeah, so that was what I was alluding to Rianne a little while before. So we need to have a balance of team science on the one hand and still individualized grants on the other. And I think that balance is there, but there should be a little bit more teamwork and team science also for the funders. So as funders, we, NWO Zonnebay, we fund both kinds of projects, so individualistic project and team science projects. But I think that in the past few months, we've seen that team science is becoming a little bit more important. So, for example, the Spinoza and the Stevin prizes are now also team prizes, so you can win them as a team, and I think that is extremely important. And I wholeheartedly agree with the minister that we need to have more cross-disciplinary work. Big challenges in our society are challenges that don't respect disciplinary borders. Right, so we need to be able to speak each other's language, and that is something that is difficult but necessary. Yeah.
Yeah. You have another question for us?
Yeah, there's one more. Should we also maybe should there also be more mobility between academia, businesses, and the public sector? How can we? I think how does that relate to recognition and rewards?
Oh, yeah, I would agree. And I was speed dating this. We also did speed dating today. That was new for me. Something to keep.
It was really speedy, right?
It was very speedy. 3 minutes, you had someone that you didn't know in your screen, in your room. And there was one young man who left academia for 5 years, Jasper Sluis. I hope I can now reveal his identity. And then now he's back in academia. And when he's asked to give his resume for grants in your organization, then they ask, what did you do the last 5 years?
Yeah.
But then he was working in the private sector, where he had very valuable experiences. But that doesn't count. So it feels like he has a gap and that he should start all over again. And I really want to get rid of that because we want to have this transfer for to come back. To go and come back, Jeroen.
For the funders, I can say that we actually are asking more and more about what is your best work so far.
Yeah.
Instead of what was your best work the last 5 years, to facilitate that people can move from one area to another area and back again. So actually, I think we're working on that.
Okay, good to hear.
Yeah,
And I think also on a European level, there are important policy documents from this year, and they're also really trying to promote this mobility between universities and research institutes and the private sector. So I think it's also a more international discussion going on as well. I'm not sure if Minister van Engelshoven also could react to that, but it's about European research area and movements going on there.
Yes, it's something that we discuss in the European research area, and if I may add, it would also be very good for the public sector if we have more mobility between the public sector, the private sector, and academia, to make sure that we understand each other's world, that we make, and especially in a time where we have these big societal challenges, where we need close cooperation between policymakers and researchers. It's good that they understand the position where everyone is in and how it works. So not just for the Netherlands, but I think for the whole of Europe, it would be good if we had more mobility, of course, within Europe, but also between the sectors. And it would solve a lot of misunderstandings we have for policymakers in how research work and how should we understand research and vice versa. So yes, it should help if we could pull down some barriers there as well.
Yeah, and may I add a little? I remember once we had a discussion with a group of people who were also not, who didn't come from academia, but then started to work as support staff in academia. And they told me at some point that we have this tendency to start a career from below and you go up. And that should be a linear, straight away, like a rocket path. Whereas why not be able to go up and down and up and down, and that it's trap op, trap off is what they called it. But within our HR systematics, it's not there. You go from one step to the next, and that's that way. And why not be able to switch and come back and then look at your CV from that perspective? I would really like to have such a possibility.
That would also have salary replications, right?
Why? In our system, it does.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're proposing even that, even if you go back in tasks, you could keep the same salary or something like that?
I think we have to look at our salary house anyway, because we're not being competitive anymore with the private sector, with many positions.
Right, that's true.
That becomes very problematic with certain fields. Look at data science, but also other fields. And also in support staff, we are not being competitive anymore because private sector pays more. And if that continues, then at some point we'll lose our attractiveness as a
private sector will always pay more, I guess, but I agree that we should probably balance
A little bit more.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think are the biggest challenges for us for first the coming year, and when you look further on the horizon?
I think that one big challenge is to keep this incentive going. So we're doing a lot of good work now, and I mean, if you look from the first National Congress that we kept in 2019 to now, we've come a real long way, and I'm really proud of that. All sorts of groups are now working on implementing reward and recognition guidelines. And I think that is fantastic. But now we have to keep going. We have to keep moving and keep inspiring everybody to work on this issue. So that is always, if we're too slow, then people get disinterested. If we're too fast, then people are annoyed. So we need to have the right pace of just continuing this energy. And the second thing that we should keep in mind is that there shouldn't be islands. And that is also why there is a steering committee, national steering committee. All these endeavors, all these local initiatives should be coordinated a little bit, so that Holland as a whole has one vision and one plan that has perhaps some local variations, but is still recognizable as one plan. And that coordination is also, I think, something that we should work on. I don't know how you see that.
Totally agree. Yeah, in the end, it should become more visible and tangible for every academic staff member, and not depending on where you are situated at. And we're not there yet. So, and I think we need to push that, because in the end, this is something that should lead to, we should not fail the expectations that we're raising now, and we're raising lots of expectations.
Yeah.
So that would be my concern, that it stays a talking exercise, and if that's still the case a year from now, I think then we have not succeeded.
Yeah, we need to walk the walk.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and we need everyone who was here today and everyone in their network and to bring this further.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if I see these young scientists, I'm not worried. I can see them, and I can see them being so enthusiastic, and I'm working with this new brave new world. I'm very enthusiastic about that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to share some final thoughts on today and on this year?
Well, I think that we must be very grateful as well, because this was a year where the work pressure has increased even more, where we asked a lot from our staff, homeschooling your kids, taking care of parents that may be ill, working from home, totally changing your education. I don't have to explain. And then still finding such a large group committed to this program, I could never have expected that. So I'm actually really grateful for people still showing the commitment, besides all the challenges that they face.
Yeah, and that are the people who are here today.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. And Jeroen, do you have some final thoughts?
Yeah, I fully agree. I'm very proud and also amazed by how much has been done already. I was chatting a little bit with my own PhD students in the break, who are also following the discussions today, and they say, "Wow, so much has been done since 2019 when we started," and I think they're absolutely right. I'm proud, and I'm very happy that we have a system here, not in the least by the support of our minister, who has done a great job. And we have a system here that allows for this discussion to be held.
Yeah, and that you can really work together with organizations. So a final question also for our minister. What do you think is most important for us for moving on with this change we strive for in our endeavor to change the system of recognition and rewards? What do you think is most important for us?
Well, in the first place, let me make a big compliment to you, because when we first spoke each other, Rianne and Jeroen, about recognition awards, it was an idea and a paper and the start of a movement. And for me, I think it's the start of one of the biggest transitions we are in our academia. Very important. And I just want to repeat what Rianne just said, is what we have to do in the coming months and the coming year is make it more visible, more tangible, to keep the spirit going. Because what I see is a lot of young people in academia they can't wait, and everyone sees the need to make this change. But well, if we want to keep it going, and when you want to lead by example, we really must make it visible and tangible, so that everyone can see what it can do. And I really think this is an important step towards new leadership, towards a new way of working in our academia. So let's go for 2021. Take the next step, make it tangible, make it visible, and then again a year from now, another big step will be taken. I'm very confident.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your compliments and for being here with us this afternoon. I think we had a really inspiring day today. And so the desired cultural change is really fundamental change of beliefs. And I think that sharing good practices and experiments and that will really initiate the desired movement and bring this movement further. So I hope that you feel that you had the opportunity today to do so, to share your thoughts, to meet new people, and we will keep creating these type of opportunities in the future. Our networking app will be available for a while, so you can contact interesting colleagues you've met today in the coming weeks, and we would really like to encourage you to do so. So thank you very much for participating. I hope you had your day was as good as my day was, as our day was, and I hope to see you again. Thank you very much.
Yes. Bye.